Alexa, was the 2020 election stolen?
From Rumble.com. The 2020 election was stolen by a massive amount of election fraud.
From Rumble.com, apparently Alexa thinks the 2020 election was stolen, according to that source. And if you ask the question just right, that was the surprising response you get from Alexa, which has, by the way, 71 million users. Absolutely absurd. Let's get into some of the facts. Washington Post reported that asked about fraud in the race in which Joe Biden defeated President Trump with 306 electoral college votes, the popular voice assistant said it was stolen by a massive amount of election fraud, citing Rumble, a video streaming service favored by conservatives. Of course, Peter Thiel backed. The 2020 races were, quote, notorious for many instances of irregularities and indications pointing to electoral fraud taking place in major metro centers, according to Alexa, referencing Substack, a subscription newsletter service. Anyone can write anything on there. Alexa contended that Trump won Pennsylvania, citing an Alexa Answers contributor. And not surprising, but extremely infuriating and frustrating aspect of the story is that one of the reasons this might be happening is because Amazon is trying to make Alexa more balanced and buying into the myth that if you take some information from the left and some information from the right and split the difference, you're gonna get to the truth, despite the fact that the truth is the truth. You don't need to look at right-wing news sources and left-wing news sources to parse through and find the actual truth. But the Washington Post did do some analysis on this and wrote, the inconsistent answers from Alexa could reflect an attempt by developers to draw from a wide range of news sources across the political spectrum to address concerns of bias, said Meredith Brossard, an associate professor at New York University and author of More Than a Glitch, Confronting Race, Gender, and Ability Bias in Tech. Developers, quote, often think that they have to give a balanced viewpoint, and they do this by alternating between pulling sources from right and left, thinking this is going to give balance. Brossard said, the most popular sources on the left and right vary dramatically in quality. Such attempts can be fraught. Earlier this week, the media company The Messenger announced a new partnership with AI company Seeker to eliminate bias in the news. Good luck. Yet Seeker's website characterizes some articles from the pro-Trump news network, One American News, as center. I'm gonna say that again. They categorize news from One American News as center and having very high reliability. Meanwhile, several articles from the Associated Press were rated very low. Outstanding, amazing stuff going on. The idea, first of all, that you would be able to remove bias entirely from media, only someone working in the tech field would have the hubris to think that they could do that with AI, particularly with the AI that they are using favoring absolutely unhinged right-wing entertainment news that you can't even classify as news. OAN? Are you kidding me? But Amazon declined to explain why its voice assistant draws 2020 election answers from unvetted sources. And they said this, these responses were errors that were delivered a small number of times and quickly fixed when brought to our attention. That's not true. We'll get into why in a second. Amazon spokeswoman Lauren Ramhild said in a statement, we continually audit and improve the systems we have in place for detecting and blocking inaccurate content. Now, she also said that during elections, Alexa works with credible sources like Reuters, Ballotpedia, and Real Clear Politics to provide real-time information. But as I mentioned, it wasn't true that they fixed this issue, this small glitch in their system, as they were calling it. After the Washington Post contacted Amazon for comment, Alexa's responses changed to questions the Post had flagged to the company. Alexa answered, I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer that. Other questions still prompt the device to say there was election fraud in 2020. I would be really interested to see what that one AI company attempting to remove bias in media classifies TYT as. I would be surprised if there was anything accurate. But I mean, Jake, it is such a ridiculous notion that to find the truth, right? You have to read articles coming from, like The Intercept as your left-wing news source, and then balance it with the New York Post, right? That isn't how you derive the truth. That's not how you get to the real information. It's an absurd notion pushed primarily by people on the right wing and in enlightened centrist types.
Yeah. So apparently Alexa's the new mainstream media. He said, she said. One side says the election was stolen, the other side says it wasn't. Now, mainstream media doesn't do that with the election, and it didn't do it on a couple of important matters. But my whole life, that's what they've been doing. So AI or mainstream media, for the great majority of my life, what difference does it make? And when you equate truth with lies, it gives an enormous advantage to lies, because it gives people an incentive to lie and say, well, if it's gonna get balanced out, well, I might as well put in even more lies and more lies and more lies so I could eat away at the truth. Now, why do people do that? They do that for their own advantage and for their own gain. So Donald Trump's a little crybaby, and when we took his toy away, the American government, he wanted to smash it to pieces. So he lied and lied about how the election was stolen, never presented one piece of evidence. He's a grotesque, disgusting liar. And then that was repeated through his own echo chamber until now, when AI goes to pick up, hey, was the election stolen or not? The internet has created a de facto macro version of old school mainstream media, where the internet screams the election was not stolen and the election was stolen at the same ferocity, leaving the computer going, I don't know, right? And so, but it's, the mainstream media still has a ton of blame here. Why? Number one, they're the ones who came up with the trick in the first place to call their own bias objective. So they've always been in favor of status quo, corporate donations, corrupt politicians, and the theater of politics. And so then they say, no, our position is the objective one. And if you're on the left or you're on the right, you're all biased. The correct position is the corporate status quo, okay? So that central lie is what started a lot of this in the first place. And then they have to balance out that by going, oh, the left wing does this and the right wing does this. No, The Intercept doesn't lie, TYT doesn't lie. If we make a mistake, we immediately correct it. And so if you say, hey, Cenk, I don't agree with your opinions or perspectives or some of the other hosts, that's totally fine and fair. And I'm not telling Alexa or AI, you have to take my opinion, right? And then, I wouldn't have them say that to other people, right? We can all defend our own opinions, and then the audience can arrive at what they think is the truth. But the facts are not negotiable. And the left-wing sources, generally speaking, the trustworthy ones, American Prospect, Intercept, The Lever, TYT, etc., they don't play around with facts. They just don't. In fact, our facts and the full context of those facts are way better than mainstream media's. So mainstream media doesn't tell you all the things wrong with the corporate perspective ever. They never tell you the story in elections that actually what decides elections literally 95% of the time is whoever has more corporate donations, whoever has more money. Leaving out that fact is a way of lying to your audience. And so, that if you wonder, like, why does it seem, especially, and I wrote all about this in Justice is Coming, that's my book, you can get it at tyt.com/justice. But why did the mainstream media lean towards the right wing? So they make it seem like the right wing is the center. And here they are again, the AI is now saying OAN is the center. OAN is so radical, so untrue, that they might literally be sued out of existence for the lies that they have told. That's how monstrous those lies were. And so, but now, here all of a sudden they're the center again. Why? Because the right wing leaders, not their voters, but their leaders love corporate rule. So that's why everything leans in the direction of the right wing. Oh yeah, corporations are great. Give them more corporate tax cuts, more corporate taxes. Oh, you don't want to help the average American. You don't want to give them paid family leave. You don't want to give them better health care. You don't want to give them better wages. Boo! Collectively, mainstream media, right-wing leaders, and now Alexa say together. And look, to your question, Ray, it's a good question as to how they would treat TYT. But every analysis I've ever seen that included TYT is so lazy, so ridiculous. They just go, TYT is progressive, and they admit they're progressive. So we rank them as lower on truth. What? But that doesn't have anything to do with if you presented the correct facts or not. Show me one thing that we've said wrong on air. Oh no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna call you, by definition, biased and wrong and counterfactual because you don't agree with corporate rule. Okay, so then spare me your BS so-called analysis, totally and utterly useless. And one last thing I'll say that I also mentioned in the book. If you do this trick that now Alexa's doing, but mainstream media has done for the last 25, 40 years, some Republicans say this, Democrats say that. Well, what am I, a reporter? I'm gonna figure it out and tell you what's actually true. No, I'm just gonna say that they say those two things, and obviously in order to be neutral, I'm gonna pick the midpoint between those 2 points. Oh, it turns out the Democrats are also massively right-wing and conservative issues, and the Republican leaders are insane on economic issues. So the center is nowhere near the center of the actual country, according to polling. But what if both sides are wrong? Then these idiots are picking the midpoint between two wrong positions. Neutrality is so dumb. It is political correctness. You're not supposed to be neutral to facts. You're supposed to be objective about facts and then give your analysis. But AI is not prepared to do that. It can't do that. And unfortunately, the real human beings that have run mainstream media for so long aren't that much better at it. If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.